Hi, my name's Abby Chicken. I'm Head of Sustainability at Openreach. Welcome to Zeroing In, where we sit down with telecoms leaders across the industry to talk about what's working, what's challenging, and where we can go further together. Today, I'm really pleased to welcome George Barrett, who's the Senior Sustainability Manager from Vodafone 3. And thank you for coming in. Who is your sustainability hero?
Oh, good question, Abby.
You can't say David Attenborough.
No.
He's everybody's hero.
Probably my grandfather had quite a big influence on me. He had his own little allotment at the end of the garden and he'd always try to get us out on walks or amongst nature, and I think he probably instilled a bit of an interest in kind of natural history.
Tell us about your personal journey on sustainability so far.
I've worked in the retail sector for about five to 8 years.
Started in sustainability?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sustainability. Gained some really interesting experience, saw some things on the ground, and then moved into the tech telco space a couple of years ago. Totally kind of different organisational structure, totally different levels of complexity. It's incredibly exciting. You know, Vodafone 3 have just merged. We've made a significant investment commitment in terms of our 5G network rollout over the next decade, and that could be a transformational impact for the UK economy, but also beyond that, UK society and the UK environment as well.
It sounds like that might be one of the achievements you're proudest of, but is there something that you'd really like to tell us about that you're really proud of?
One is just turning up every day, because sometimes you can be the only voice in the room talking about this stuff, and if you weren't there, then no one else would be. And I think sustainability professionals have to be really resilient and you're going to get more no's than yeses, so you have to keep kind of like a slinky, kind of reel yourself back in and then go again. And then secondly, the merger was brilliant to work on over the last couple of years, and being exposed to that process was amazing. And now it's about bringing that to life and really demonstrating the impact we can have.
What have been the biggest challenges along the way?
The biggest one is always going to be those trade-offs. Companies have come out of back-to-back crises and back-to-back challenges over the last few years, and understandably, therefore, appetite changes. What's exciting now is seeing this kind of renewal of sustainability as supply chain resilience or impact. And I think that's what we've really got to think about. How do you add value, not solely socially and environmentally, but actually how do you find these real, genuine triple wins? And it's tough, but that's the exciting challenge that comes with it.
You've mentioned supply chain a couple of times, and obviously Openreach is a fairly major supplier to Vodafone 3. So how does working with Openreach help Vodafone to meet its goals?
Openreach are a huge and critical supplier for us and key for how we deal with our enterprise customer requests. We're increasingly being asked to provide them with environmental data that is increasing both in the number of requests, but also the technicality and granularity of those requests. And therefore, we need to work with those suppliers that we can trust, build relationships with, to help understand, for example, what is the carbon footprint of fibre to the premises, fibre to the customer. And that's what you've been able to help us with.
If I'd done that.
If you hadn't provided us with that, we would be facing challenging customer conversations, and being able to work with a progressive supplier like yourselves means we've now got a blueprint that we can then take to other large suppliers and go, okay, we've done this once, we can do this again.
And is it just carbon, or are you getting asked on sort of other elements of sustainability as well?
I think we've been asked what is the carbon footprint of X product or X service over the last few years, but we're now starting to see requests such as what's the human social impact of this, what's the biodiversity impact. So I think we've got to think much more broadly, think much more kind of product environmental or social footprinting.
What's next for you on the agenda?
For me, and where I'm excited to go is nature. I think everyone's starting to see that you can't reduce your carbon footprint and think about nature restoration in silo. You have to look at them together. I'm not sure yet we've worked out as an industry how do we want to come together for nature. And I think when we find that collective voice, that's when we're going to drive real impact. We're great at collaborating in the telco space, and I think nature and biodiversity has to be that next step.
How do you see the telecoms industry evolving over the next 5 years?
AI is the zeitgeist at the moment, isn't it? We're seeing this more and more, and it's undeniable that there are energy load increases and water footprint increases there. So coupled with that, population's increasing in the UK, data usage is going up. The expectation on the likes of Openreach and Vodafone 3 is to have high quality, reliable service, and therefore you need the infrastructure, and that infrastructure does come with a footprint, and that means collaborating with suppliers. If you don't collaborate, then you're just going to be shouting into the wind.
Yeah, I think it's an and, not an or, isn't it? You know, the carbon benefits of some of this technology are undeniable. but the impacts of infrastructure build are also undeniable. So actually we can tackle both of those. Finally then, what advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out in telecoms on their sustainability journey?
I see so many people trying to get into sustainability because they say they want more purpose in their job, or they're really passionate about sustainability. Well, that kind of should be a bit of a given. I would say find a product that you're absolutely passionate about. That could be chocolate, it could be a football, it could be telecoms, whatever that is. Find that, because you will innately be more willing to have the challenging conversations, be prepared, be ready for the no's, be resilient, but also find that product that you love.
George and I love FTTP.
There we go.
Thank you so much for coming to talk to me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Loads of food for thought and loads of room for us to collaborate. So I'm excited.
Thanks for having me.